A lot has been said about the 5G revolution, how it will change our lives for the better, bring incredible speeds to our mobiles, enhance online streaming services, and make driverless cars a common sight. These are all changes we've been told to expect, courtesy 5G networks. Here's one they never said: 350,000 flight delays every year. This warning has been issued by airline executives in the United States. They say cell phone frequencies due to 5G could delay, divert, or cancel nearly 350,000 flights each year. That's 4% of all annual flights in the United States. The concerns stem from a planned 5G expansion in the country. Two American telephone companies, AT&T and Verizon, are planning to roll out their C-band 5G services in January next year. Airline executives say these services will disrupt their networks. This includes David Calhoun, the CEO of Boeing, and Jeffrey Knittel, the CEO of Airbus, two of the largest airplane companies in the world. They've both written to U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg asking him to delay the rollout of 5G services. What exactly do they fear could happen? They say frequencies stemming from the 5G service have the potential of damaging an important aircraft instrument. The radio altimeter, also known as the radar altimeter, is the device that measures a plane's altitude above the ground. It's critical in guiding pilots during landings. Boeing and Airbus say that if phones using 5G frequencies don't stay in airplane mode, they can interfere with the radio altimeters, as can 5G towers located near airports and runways, in the case of bad weather or fog, which has already set in across America. This can make landing even more risky. What do the service providers say? They say no such disruptions will occur. They say the aviation industry is fear-mongering. They point at 5G operations in 40 other countries, which they claim haven't caused any delays or disruptions so far. But they failed to mention the limits each country has imposed on 5G frequencies.
50, 40, 30.
It's the critical technology pilots rely on for precise altitude readings when landing in poor visibility, the radio altimeter. But the FAA, the airlines, pilots, Boeing and Airbus have all warned the new, faster 5G cell systems could interfere with the altimeter just when pilots need it most. Now, with the system going live tomorrow, the airline CEOs have written this letter asking that the 5G sites within 2 miles of airports remain turned off for now, warning that immediate intervention is needed to avoid significant operational disruption to air passengers, shippers, supply chain, and delivery of needed medical supplies.
The FAA is uncomfortable with the safety risk, and as a consequence, the impact on our operations to mitigate that would be a significant setback.
Concerned about potential interference, the FAA has already issued a notice to pilots. As 5G goes live Wednesday, the FAA will prohibit pilots from using altimeters during landing at more than 80 airports near 5G sites, including large airport hubs in Dallas, New York, Chicago, and Seattle. If those airports experience bad weather, the CEOs warn, the vast majority of the traveling and shipping public will essentially be grounded, facing cancellations, diversions, or delays.
This is reckless, it's dangerous, and it's got to stop. Take a pause. This is about a cell phone signal, and we're focused on protecting lives.
But the cell phone industry insists there is no 5G risk to planes, recently telling NBC News 5G networks operate safely without interference in nearly 40 countries around the world, and it will be no different here. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Look, the wireless carriers are impatient to deploy technology that stands to make a big impact, a positive impact on our economy. But on the aviation side, we've also got to make sure that it's safe.
This Wednesday, AT&T and Verizon are set to roll out 5G mobile service. Today, airline executives sent a letter to a number of federal government leaders, among them Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. The execs warned that 5G could diminish air safety and essentially ground, quote, the vast majority of the traveling and shipping public. They go on to write, quote, immediate intervention is needed to avoid significant operational disruption to air passengers, shippers, supply chain, and delivery of needed medical supplies, unquote. We have been following this conflict for a little while now. The concern is that 5G could interfere with navigation equipment. Last week, the mobile carriers agreed to not implement 5G around these 50 airports here on the map. But the airlines say that's not enough. They want 5G systems kept at least 2 miles away from other key airport runways. In a statement to NBC News, the Federal Aviation Administration wrote, quote, with safety as its core mission, the FAA will continue to ensure that the traveling public is safe as wireless companies deploy 5G. The FAA continues to work with the aviation industry and wireless companies to try to limit 5G-related flight delays and cancellations, unquote. Joining us now is Kathryn Bangs. She's a former commercial pilot, author, and aerospace journalist. Ms. Bangs, welcome to the program.
Hey, great to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the equipment that the airlines and the FAA are concerned about? What is it exactly that 5G, this new 5G rollout, could interfere with?
Oh, sure. This is what's called the radar altimeter. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the term altimeter, but a radar altimeter is a different device that pilots use normally within a couple thousand feet of the ground. And where it's really critical is on approach and landing, especially in what a passenger would call bad weather or what a pilot would call low visibility. That's where this radar altimeter is very, very critical. And how it works is it bounces radio waves from the aircraft to the ground and measures the altitude by the time it takes to get back. The concern is with 5G operating so close in the same what we call megahertz band, okay, in this what's called the C band, there's big concern that there's going to be interference, and that might render the altimeter useless, or it might actually not be operating correctly, but the pilots actually wouldn't know, which could even be a worse problem.
So I hate to sound melodramatic about this, but is the concern that flights could crash as a result of this?
Well, ultimately, yes. Ultimately, safety is the whole thing here. And what's amazing in this is that, especially with today's letter to the DOT and the FCC, that you have everybody in the aviation industry on the same page. You have the FAA, you have Boeing, you have the pilot unions, you have the major airlines, not just passenger, but cargo, all on the same page saying, hey, safety is more important than speed of cell service. And until we know for sure that there's no interference, we need to take greater caution. Now, what the industry, the FCC and the the telecom industry is saying is, well, this has been rolled out in Europe without a problem. But one of the reasons that we don't know if it's going to interfere over here is in Europe, they're operating at a lower portion of that C band. They're in a little bit lower. And what they've got is a buffer to where the radar altimeter operates. So you can picture these spectrums, they're called electromagnetic spectrums. And at the low end, you have radio waves. In the middle, you've got microwaves, like from a microwave oven. And at the very high end, you've got X-rays and gamma rays. Well, down at that low end is where this C-band is. And the concern is that where the cell phone towers are going to be broadcasting from, it's going to interfere with that radar altimeter. And that could really cause immense problems.
You've been a commercial pilot. Can you talk to me about what a pilot would do in the cockpit if the radar altimeter was not responding properly? Suppose you knew that it was not responding properly. Are pilots trained to deal with that? Can air traffic control help land the plane, or are you really kind of on your own?
Oh, no, you're on your own. And see, that's one of the things is you don't know if it's going to be operating. It could be impacted in many ways. It could be an operative. You could get one signal to the first officer and one to the captain. It could be operating, but just not accurately. So the problem is until this is really studied, we really need this to be studied more to actually understand how it's going to impact these radar altimeters, because especially it's not just landing at low visibility. It can affect the auto throttles, the braking system, flight controls. You know, these are very sophisticated computerized airplanes. So the radar altimeter is linked into a lot of very, very critical systems.
In that letter from airline executives, they also wrote this, quote, in addition to the chaos caused domestically, This lack of usable wide-body aircraft could potentially strand tens of thousands of Americans overseas, unquote. Elaborate on that. Why would that leave people stranded overseas? Does that have to do with concerns about taking off and landing on transatlantic flights, or is there more to it than that?
Well, I think, and I can't speak for them, but I think what they're saying is that generally, of course, it's wide-body aircraft used to fly, trans-international, transoceanic, that sort of thing. What they're saying is some of these planes just may not launch. If they don't think they can land safely, especially when you're coming in with less fuel reserves on these long international trips, they may not take off. I mean, look at the weather on the East Coast the past few days. I mean, those are one instrument approach after another down to low visibility situations. You need a radar altimeter in that situation. How this got so messed up, how the FCC did not communicate with the FAA earlier on this nobody can understand how it got that we're to this point. We're almost at like a face-off. We're so close to 5G launching. It's been delayed numerous times the last few months. Anyone's guess as to what's going to happen on Wednesday.
Carol, this is very, very frightening to all of us sitting here. Thank you so much. I just think when airlines raise a flag and use words like catastrophic, people should pay attention to that until it's all worked out.
Because I don't see why the airlines would overstate this. They want people on plane.